So here we have a kayak that I built about 4 years ago from a kit produced by Redfish kayaks in Port Townswend, Washington. And it's what's called a stripper, meaning that it's constructed from strips which are about 3/4 inches wide, 3/16 inches thick, and as long as the boat, which is 17 feet 9 inches. It's intended for ocean kayaking, meaning that it's long and has bulkheads so that you don't get, even if you were to take water into the boat, it would not go into the entire boat because there's a bulkhead here that protects any water from the back getting in through the cockpit, and also one in the front. It's about 24 inches in the beam, which is the widest distance. And it's, because of its length, it's a very stable boat. It can handle rough, a lot of wind. But of course that depends on the captain. So I don't go out in conditions like that. I'm not anywhere near skilled enough to do that, and I'm too old to get into those kind of situations. But anyway, this boat is probably about a year's worth of work if you have a job, and maybe longer. I did it in 3 months because I just stopped doing everything else and was working probably an average of about 50 hours a week. And what happens is you have a series of forms that are set up in a rigid spine, and the shape of each form determines the shape of the boat, of course. So that you have the small little curves in the front and the rear, and then they get fatter as you get to the center. So you do the entire, the hull at the bottom first, starting at each end, and you work your way around to the very bottom. And it's just regular wood glue, and each strip has one edge has a cove and one edge has a bead, like a convexity and a concavity, and they go together so they can rotate and gradually form this curve. When you get the entire hull done, you fiberglass it with epoxy. That's the basic strength of the boat, is not in the wood, but in the fiberglass and the epoxy. You can have some areas where you can literally see through the wood because there's so little wood left, although you don't hope for that, but that happens. Then you put that aside and you start working on the deck, and so you work from the sides into the center. When you get that all done, fiberglass it, epoxy it, then you have to cut out the hole for the cockpit. You have to form the coaming, this lip here, which allows you to have a spray skirt, meaning that water, if it splashes on you, cannot get inside. Anyway, it's a lot of work, but it's a thrill. Once you're all done, there is nothing compared with being out in a place where you're on the water, seeing things that nobody else can see, because just about everybody else is on the land. And especially when there are animals around. I've been able to go to Alaska and Canada, and always within bounds of safety. You don't ever want to go out by yourself, and you don't ever want to get out in conditions that you can't handle, no matter how many people there are there. So safety first, get to know people who know more than you do, and you can't have any fun in one of these boats unless you know you're safe.